Welcome to the last session that you guys have to do today. Boy, you guys like your jobs. I was fighting the wave of people leaving the building on the way out here. I was like, you know, something tells me I might be alone down there. Anyways, my name is John Van Engen, and I'm going to take you guys through a little bit of the upgrade process. How many of you guys need to go to 12 or 13 yet? Okay. How many of you guys are still on 11? How many of you are on version 10 or before? Okay. Anybody previous to 10 yet? Yes. Okay, good. That's good. So what we're going to look at here is there was a few things between 07 and 10 that were minor changes. Coming in to upgrade from 2011 to 12, we saw some major changes in the toolbox. They weren't exactly noticeable to most people. Did anybody try installing 12 Service Pack 0 or 1? Did you get error messages you didn't like during the install process? Yeah. Did you back it all up and start over, or are you still halfway in between? You fought through it. Good choice of words. Well, and that's kind of why I'm doing this. And I talked about it with my own tech group back in September, which was kind of late in the process. However, most of the problems didn't get shook out through the service packs and everything until about then anyway. And I brought it into the group because, well, frankly, I was sick of being the only guy that would answer the phone when it was a toolbox question. So I'm like, well, okay. Let's go ahead and look at this. So I went through a few things, and I ran into probably all of the problems that are out there for it in one form or the other, whether it be through EPDM or whether it's toolbox in general or just the upgrade or customizations and so on. So I felt it was worthy of at least putting together a presentation for those of you that have been hearing stuff about it or haven't heard anything about it or just are nervous about even trying. That's cool. All right, that's what I'm here for. So the presentation, Tara's got the documentation, so she's going to put it up on the website. You can also go to the cati.com, and we have a technical blogs there. This has been blogged and posted on our site since September. And you can go ahead and take a look at that information there as well. You will get the exact same, this is a Prezi documentation, and the blog is actually the Prezi slideshow, so you'll go through the same stuff that we see here is off of both locations, okay? So let's just go ahead and toggle through here a little bit. All right, your most likely chance for success will come from the installation manager doing the upgrade for you as the installation manager is expecting to do, okay? So in other words, take it out, point it to the old toolbox, and let it try to do the update. Now this works best from the correct service pack, which is going to be, right now, as I was talking to SolidWorks last week, Service Pack 5. Actually, I haven't had any problems with anything from 3 forward, Service Pack 3 forward, but there was a few issues apparently that I haven't seen yet that are all completely taken care of now by Service Pack 5. Or, well, that's what they told me. So I'm telling you. All right, so here's where we're at with that. During the upgrade, the toolbox location shown here, Toolbox Hole Wizard, you guys are familiar with this already. Make sure to select this and set it up to your old location prior to doing any of the installs, okay? So this is going to tell SolidWorks where to go ahead and update the information from, okay? So we want that to be the location that's set up. It is just a bit on the touchy side. Not really sure which one he's got me on there. We'll just turn them all down just a bit. Okay, so going ahead and taking a look at that, we want to go ahead and, best scenario, it worked, and you're done. Okay. Inconvenient scenario, not a bad one. Okay, it's not bad. It's inconvenient. The toolbox appears to have updated, but it isn't finished. And this now requires a manual attempt to repair it. How can you tell? Well, it looked like it went okay. Everything seems to be functioning okay, but you're not sure. Take note of the following image. So SolidWorks, during the process between 11 and 12, they've gone ahead and did a little bit of folder updates. And in here you can see there's a couple different folders that exist in the 12 version versus the 11. The updates folder is information it brings down from your service pack download. And there's also an index file there to tell the manager that it's done these upgrades already. So that actual file then, if it is in there, whatever is in that file, the manager thinks is done. Even if for whatever reason it didn't finish it, if the line is written in that file, according to the installation manager, it's finished. So let's go ahead and take a look at what happens here. Again, 2011 standard versus a 2012 updated folder. The list is a little bit shorter here. And some of the stuff has been capitalized and renamed and everything. And that's the first indication that some of you are probably going, uh-oh, they're changing folder structures. Yeah, and part of this was part of the issues that we saw out of the gate. But the folder structure being updated doesn't stop there. They actually added a level to that folder structure here. So now before it was bolts and screws and then all of them were in there. It was just a big hodgepodge of files stuck in there. They separated them down and split them into appropriate folders. And you can see these changes reflected in the Toolbox wizard, the configure wizard. When you go through, you've got these same folders are listed there in the Toolbox now. So you'll see them listed like this, and then you'll go down to the next level, the set sizes and whatnot. One of the other things here, if you want to take a look to see what version you have installed, and you can do this on all of them. There's a toolbox version.dat file. If you use Open with Notepad, you can read the file and it'll look like this. And inside here you'll see file version 20.3. So that's 2012 Service Pack 3. 11 would be 19 and so on back. Okay, so 21 is your version 13. Okay. So it indicates 2012 Service Pack 3. All right, so those are a couple things to tell. How can we tell? One, the folder structure's changed. Two, the .dat file says it's whatever version. Three, we're going to open SolidWorks to give a test run. And we're going to go to Tools Options. So you'll see the path of your toolbox should be here. And you're going to hit the Configure button. And that should bring up, this might be a little big here, but okay, so basically it would look like this. And when you come into this page, if you try to change the path or anything, it shouldn't complain about the version. It should just be normal. This page should just open up, okay? If, however, you go in there and you say, oh, let's see, I want to set that to my toolbox version that I think is updated, and I go in there and I get this note. You guys have probably seen this before at some point in time. This is the standard, your toolbox is out of date message, okay? Sometimes this is the local user's got a toolbox from some other version and you're all supposed to be sharing one and the path is wrong and they open it up and I got this error, okay? This isn't actually a bad error at all, really. This is just telling you your MDB file is out of date. This is something that we update all the time. We've done this manual update all the way back to 07, at least, if not further. Okay? So if you see that warning, you know one of the update sections didn't work. And then you want to hit the Configure button. If it does come up, there's no errors. You want to hit Configure. It should pop open your wizard, and you should be able to navigate through your whole wizard into your ANSI inch file. Okay, and then if you go into section 2, you should be able to configure bolts and screws. You'll see this is all separated down now. Okay, so it's a little bit different. There's one more structure level added here but other than that, it looks the same as 11, okay? Or 10. So we try to configure, does it work? Yes, great, okay? If not, why did it fail? This is important to figure out where you need to go next. A couple of possibilities. One, you didn't have right access to the folder where the toolbox is located when you tried to do the update. Happens pretty regularly, actually. Or you didn't set the location on the installation manager, so it went and created a new one somewhere, and you're not pointing at it with your SolidWorks. Okay. Admin issue. Anybody in here using admin tool? Okay, so you're doing mass deployment with admin. Sometimes during the deployment, your deployment will actually fail. And when you go back through the installation manager logs, you'll see something about could not write toolbox, or it was a toolbox update error, or some missing file or something that it couldn't find, and that's actually what caused the crash. It's not that the installation of SolidWorks didn't go right, it had an issue writing the toolbox files, okay? Database, was the database locked? This could be sometimes if there's people using SolidWorks, the swmdb or swbrowser.mdb file might actually be locked, and that will stop the upgrade from happening as well. Others, there may be a few things here and there that are scattered, but these are the most common ones, okay? Example of a locked database. Okay, so looking at this file, this is in your SolidWorks data folder. Under Lang English, you'll find the swbrowser.mdb file. When it says that your browser is not the expected version, or your database is not the expected version, it's talking about this file, okay? swbrowser.mdb. Now you'll notice in here there's another file, swbrowser.ldb. L means locked database, okay? Even if you don't have it open, somebody else in the system does. And sometimes we've had everybody kicked out and that thing is still floating around, okay? Every once in a while you need to manually delete this thing if it doesn't close out properly. So going into this, you want to make sure that you don't have any of these lock files if you encounter any errors, okay? I don't think that's a hidden file. I'm pretty sure that's just a regular visible file, okay? So that shouldn't be any problems to find it. How do we correct it? Some basic options. Try SolidWorks Repair. Go back, check the lock database file. If you find anything like that that's out of ordinary, go back through, check all your steps and your locations. Try SolidWorks Repair. Or you can even rename the current database and try Repair again, and it'll create a new toolbox folder for you. So in that case, is it possible to install a new toolbox? If you haven't done any modifications, it really doesn't matter. Just put a new toolbox out there and move on with life. If you've done customized parts descriptions, part numbers, additional materials, so on and so on, you may need to look at doing a different upgrade option, which I'll get to. Has the toolbox been used up to this point? Sometimes people are like, yeah, we installed Toolbox in 2011. I don't think anybody's using it yet. Well, in that case, don't worry about it. Rename it, back it up somewhere, install a new toolbox with the repair option, and go, okay? All right, so if it has been used, extra data entered already is there, may have a downside, okay? Customization could be lost. That's the absolute worst thing that could happen to it, okay? With no customization. If it has been used, configurations or parts may need to be updated and could cause slow open times until saved with new versions. So in some cases, you may have some configurations that are out of date, or the toolbox parts themselves are lacking the new save as to the new version. Most of the time, if you get that far, you're probably in good shape already. If you decide to create a new toolbox, make sure to back up all existing documentation. The last thing you want to do is move forward thinking everything's good, and then somebody comes to you, hey, we're missing like 3 or 4 whole sections of the toolbox don't have any data on them. And that's not a good place to be in, okay? So usually just making a copy or renaming the existing toolbox folder is the best way to go. Completely remove whatever you're pointing to and obviously move it to a different location or whatever. And then go ahead, you can use repair at that point and it should recreate toolbox. Okay, once you're into that process and you have a toolbox created, SolidWorks Toolbox Browser. These things, if you end up creating a new toolbox, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, but then your configurations get all out of whack. And I'm inserting fasteners and they're coming in super big or they're wrong size and I can't get the right one and the configuration's not existing. These are things that have actually been corrected in the software earlier on, like probably, I think 09, it was all pretty much resolved on the size issues, okay? But the only way that those sizes work and the auto configuration of the size works is if the toolbox and the toolbox browser are enabled. If the toolbox browser is not enabled, SolidWorks can't replace or recreate the configuration of the toolbox part. It has all the data it needs, but it can't create it until the toolbox browser is loaded. So then, if your toolbox browser is not loaded and you open these parts up and you get really big, super huge fasteners, and you close out and save it, well, SolidWorks now says, well, this is the size that document has, and it will permanently open with that size. So if you ever notice the sizes are wrong, close the assembly without saving, reset your toolbox browser on, reopen the assembly. Everything should be okay unless it's already been saved in the wrong format. So actually when you float over that browser, you can see that little window there, SolidWorks Toolbox Graphical Standard Parts Interface. It says a whole lot about it right there in that little balloon. It doesn't really click until you know the functionality of that. All right, so there's a few other things that are going on with the toolbox these days. This checkbox has been around a little while, but a lot of people don't really know what it's all about yet. So you want to verify your locations, and then we want to go to folders. This checkbox actually says make this folder the default location for toolbox components. What that means, if you have anything that SolidWorks recognizes as a toolbox part, it will go to that file location to get it. That means if you've saved stuff in another directory, renamed it, repointed it somewhere else, or opened a zip file from a different customer, if this box is checked, it will automatically find that in the toolbox and not the file location that the assembly says it's in. Okay? That's an important one. This is the default location. Anything toolbox, coming from there. If the best solution seems to be keeping the old toolbox, it's not a problem. Here's some things we need to do. All right, so we're halfway in between an installation. We've noticed that some of the things didn't complete. Toolbox configure may not work. We've got to go try it again. We're going to first rename these folders and files so that their SolidWorks Installation Manager doesn't see them. Open the browser folder. So this would be your SolidWorks data browser. Inside the browser folder, rename toolbox files.index. This file is responsible for telling SolidWorks Installation Manager what has and hasn't been completed, even if it didn't work. If there's any information in that file, the Installation Manager will not try to update it again. SolidWorks tools to use. All right, make sure there's no LDB file. We talked about this already, or not an LDB. The LDB is the locked database file, okay? If that's in the data language English folder, we need to get rid of that thing. This is step one. If anybody in here manually updated a toolbox in the past, you've gone through and you got the message that says, this is not the right version, you backed out. And somebody, probably one of your resellers, went, oh yeah, we got a tool for that. The tool is update browser data.exe. It is located in your standard SolidWorks installation directory. The C, SolidWorks, Corp, SolidWorks, Toolbox, Data Utilities. There's where you're going to find the exe file. Not like they put it out in the open for you to trip over. Nothing like having it right in front of your face. This file typically runs in the background during installation. The installation manager will call this program up to do the update for you. When it fails, you need to do it manually. You need to know where it's at. When you run it, if you've done this, you've seen this box before, are both versions the same? Database version, update version. They should be equal. If they're not, click update and it'll go get it for you. Watch your folder location. It may not be the one you're expecting to update, okay? Step 2, the new, not so obvious location for the other tool that we need to do. Now some of you are probably going, other tool? All we did before was update the database file. And that's true. The database file used to contain an access database with your hole wizard information and your toolbox fastener sizes, descriptions, part numbers, blah, 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 whatever. It was all in this big database file. And you could open it up with Access if you're real savvy, and you could go through there and make a bunch of changes manually, which is never, ever recommended, but you can do it. 2012. Not only did they change the file folder locations, they also changed the database. The database no longer includes the information for the fasteners. It only includes information for your hole wizard sizes. Okay? All of the information that used to be in there for the fasteners is now resident in the part files. They moved all that file information, they squeezed it into the file header, and if you were to open it up with Notepad just to be a goof and look around in there, you can actually see some of your data that used to be in the database. It's tucked in all the gobbledygook. Okay? So that actual location then we need to go to run the correct update is here. This is your standard out-of-the-box SolidWorks install. C, program file, SolidWorks Corp, SolidWorks. Now, the other one was in Toolbox, Data Utilities. This one is just in the core folder location. And the file you're looking for is SLD Toolbox Updater.exe. What does it do? Updates the toolbox specified in your SolidWorks Tools options, hole wizard toolbox location. Okay, so whatever you have set for the current installed SolidWorks on the box you're running this from is going to be the location it uses for the update. That's the one it's going to update. That's another problem where we get off track. Sometimes you're pointed to the local one and you need to be looking at the shared folder on your network, okay? So if that path is not set correct on this machine, you won't get the correct update. So we're going to create toolbox folders and index. So again, this is where the update is specified, right there. And then you will go ahead and make sure you got the right one there. When the updater runs, you'll see this little window open. Check the box for show completed updates. If there's no update index files or anything like that, this will come back with just probably one line that says it's reading through your updater list, and then that's it. It'll say toolbox analyzed. Okay. And the line underneath there, this is not your current toolbox folder location that it's talking about. This button, when you push it, you don't want to go back and point to the toolbox you're trying to update. This is telling SolidWorks where to get the information to update your database from. So you really want that to come from your installation media, whether it be a DVD or your service pack download folder location. So it'll look like this. So here's the typical line you'll see if you just open it up. It'll say check version, install, blah, blah, blah. Yay, it worked, okay? This path right here, when you click the SolidWorks Toolbox installation location, you drive it down to wherever your service pack is or whatever. I usually stop at the service pack folder level. I don't drill all the way to the toolbox. The reason I do that, I use this as a check. If I go to this location and I click update, it'll throw the toolbox folder location on the end there. That's a good thing. That means it found data in that folder. I've seen this toolbox folder exist in some of the service packs and it's empty. The folder is completely, has nothing in it. Okay, so if you go in here, stop at the service pack, it should throw toolbox on the end. That means it found data update. And then it'll start working through all the versions you have installed. Anybody in here trim out the fat on the install yet? Yeah, you can go through, you can take out DIN, ISO, GIN, all that stuff on the install. So then you might only have install, ANSI, inch, metric, and that might be it, okay? This first one, I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna take a little while to go through. Installing ANSI inch, when it does the upgrade for that, it's kind of pokey, okay? The rest of them are much quicker because there's less data in them. It goes faster. You wanna probably do this either tied directly in, having both of the files on the same computer, copy the toolbox location down, and then do your upgrade. One of my coworkers went to a job site and he was using a network location that was kind of slow, and this should only take maybe 20 to 30 minutes if it's all local. His took like 6 hours because the translation was really slow. And because they put all that data into the file header, the SolidWorks Toolbox got kind of fat. And it used to be somewhere 300 to 400 megabytes depending on how much junk you got in there. Now it's 1 to 1.4 gigabytes. Okay. The reason why they did this update to the parts, one, when you put the file into an assembly, it's much quicker drop now. The toolbox fastener will drop into an assembly almost instantaneously because it's not going out to talk to the database to see what sizes it has. That information it gets from the part. So it's not going to two different places for information. The second reason that they did it was anybody using EPDM or some sort of data management, when those files weren't including that information, the PDM system had to read the file information from the database as well. So then when you're using fasteners out of a PDM, it was even slower because now it's checking 3 different locations to get all the information before it can even drop the part in. And there was some other vaulting issues with the database being outside. So having all that stuff moved over makes the files a little bigger. You should see a checklist go down. As long as it's going, you should be fine. Once it's done, you should be in pretty good shape. PDM concerns. There's a few things with Toolbox and installation processes. I've argued the case of why are we putting Toolbox parts into the vault anyways? If you don't make Toolbox parts, you probably don't need to revision them or control them like that at all. Most of the time it's just a reference file, okay? But I argued that with our own PDM guys and I lost. And the reason why I lost is if you're trying to use the PDM bill of materials and the file's not in the vault, you can't get it. So considerations to use, if you're going to need that kind of information for your PDM, you may need to talk to your guys about doing some kind of upgrade to bring the PDM files in and get them all installed and vaulted and checked out that way, okay? There's some Toolbox information. There's a few knowledge base articles. Can everybody get into your customer portal? You all have one created and all that good stuff. Log in there, SolidWorks knowledge base. These 2 numbers you can reference for more information, stuff that I use for background on getting this thing put together. And also some videos that are out there for doing the upgrade manually. They even show you step by step. Here's upgrading the toolbox, here's upgrading the parts, and the 2 steps are combined in their video, okay? Other things I have for you. There is some more upgrade information. This file will also be available for you. These are some of the service reports on the issues. This goes through talking about why isn't my toolbox upgrade, or why isn't it not working now in 2012, and possibilities about here you only upgrade MDB file, okay? And then there's a few more in here. Some of these have been resolved. Actually, all of these have been resolved now, but some of them still require your input to get it all moved to the next level, especially if you're in the transitional where half of it's upgraded, half of it's not. All right, so all this data will be available. There's also a section down here too on some of the PDM notes. There's extra steps when using PDM for doing the upgrades. It has some important information about where to start from, and for PDM, you have to start on Service Pack 2 or later, okay? So we should all be good. At this point, Service Pack 5 is out, use it, okay? The Service Pack 2 was the first one that would even work with the PDM version, okay? Yeah, with the PDM, it's real important that all of the users are out. All of these, not just the toolbox parts, but all the assemblies that use toolbox parts are checked back in before you do the upgrade. Okay, it's a big process. You're gonna make sure you have some time to do it, and everybody's got to be back in. So it's best to start unfortunately for you guys, if you've been in the CAD admin and IT field for a while, means you're probably gonna have to stay late. Or lunch hour, or Saturday, or something. It's not like you guys are any strangers to that stuff, I'm sure. But anyway, so the files will be available for you out there on the web. There's a few things about upgrading the first client here for PDM, upgrading the vault, and moving forward on that. Okay? So I'm going to keep it nice and short and try not to kill you guys on the last day here. Well, is there any questions you guys have? Anything about? Yeah, go ahead.
We use a network toolbox, and we do a lot of field engineering also. And what we've been doing in the past is every time we have to go out in the field and we need this, we copy the network toolbox over locally and point it to the local.
Mm-hmm.
Usually we're only doing that because of Full Wizard. If we need to use that, we don't necessarily have to actually think of that. Mm-hmm. Is there any way to split Full Wizard from Toolbox?
Well, pretty much that's been done already now. So the question here again is the network file association. When you have a user leave the plant to go on site somewhere, how do you get the shared toolbox data back on the drive to be usable? And in your case, you're saying you only have the whole wizard part of it you're trying to use?
Well, I mean, both ways, right? We usually use it just for whole wizard, but yeah, if there was a way to sync, right? Mm-hmm. In fact, if there's a way to sync the toolbox back and forth, so we're always pointing locally, but if somebody else adds fasteners, it's always just simply syncing back and forth, that would be ideal. It would reduce time spent opening fasteners.
Well, it won't. There's no actual sync between those because you are actually maintaining two versions of data at that point. The one thing that is a saving grace though is as long as the file exists, SolidWorks can make the new configuration that it needs to insert the parts, but make sure the browser is checked in on that. Realistically, this has been kind of a problem for everybody that's been floating around with stuff. I guess really you're pretty much doing the best you can with it right now if you're copying the data back and forth. Update wise on it, there's no automated tool for it at this point. But you could try. I mean, you could try now to separate the toolbox files out and just see about copying the MDB file over, because that's where your whole wizard data is stored anyways. The fastener configuration should be able to be recreated when you open the part again. So maybe you only have to copy the MDB file back and forth, which is only about 100 meg. What? Your MDB file is? You know, a lot of stuff in a lot of customizations, properties, and part numbers and everything. It's full. One thing that, are you guys using this? This might be something else cool for you guys to see. When you're doing your toolbox updates or you're adding properties or anything like that, actually, let's go into the, when you're doing your customizations, has anybody been using this over here?
That's all new since 12, right?
No, this has been out there for a while. The export, it may work funky on some of the other versions. I've seen it where when you do the export, you make your changes and you bring it back in, and then SolidWorks doesn't want to recognize it. I think there was something with the Windows Office 2007 stuff and the file doc and docx change that happened somewhere along the way. What the resolution for that is just to do a save as in Excel to a new file name and bring it back in. I don't know why that makes a difference, but it does. So these buttons here allow you to export all the fields you see here to an Excel spreadsheet. Therefore, you can add your columns for different properties, part numbers, materials, and so on, and do it in Excel where you can cut, copy, paste, and move cells around much easier than you can in here. Also, you can remove or add fastener sizes in there just by copying the same information that you see here into the, into the other columns and rows. And the same thing if you want to get rid of a bunch of stuff. Let's say you only use the 1024 section, take the rest of the stuff, remove it from the Excel file, and bring the file back in, and it'll only give you what's in the Excel file. So it's a much faster way to strip stuff out of your database than checking things off. Yes?
Just a comment or anything else. I recently tried to upgrade Toolbox 2011 to 2013.
Have I done 11 to 13? Or you're doing 11 to 13?
No, I
You're doing, okay.
upgraded from 11 to 13.
Sure.
And it all seemed to work okay, except that none of the custom attributes or custom properties are copied over.
No, the custom part, okay.
I reported the problem. They think that it has to do with the fact that I had angle brackets in as part of the definition of the custom properties. So they think it's trying to interpret it as an XML tag.
Oh, in the actual, oh yeah, I've, yeah, like, let's see if I can get this thing done.
So that they were able to take the database file and fix it. And they think they have
See,
a fix for it. They're not honest.
you're saying like up here you have it in the,
Custom property, like you have material, right?
yeah.
So if you put in a default value,
Mm-hmm.
and use like something in angle brackets,
Like that?
that's what I have. And they think that's what caused it. They think it's interpreting those as XML tags.
Yeah, and that could. A lot of the stuff that's in here is like code, syntax code, and there's some characters you can't use, then they work funny, and that would.
I'm just offering it as a suggestion.
No, that's good to talk about because when you do stuff like this in here, you're thinking pretty much it's safe. It's just a description label or whatever. But SolidWorks actually reads a lot of that data in, especially because it's going to a database file or it's adding taglines to file headers. When it's creating that kind of stuff, it's really getting into some of you're actually adding code to the parts. And when you're typing things in there, those things can be very, very tricky at times. And it's really hard to find that kind of stuff too. And that's good that they were able to isolate that down to, watch this file name. You might got some characters in there that are no good.
They took a copy of my database file and said they fixed it, but I may just go back and change all of them.
Yeah, and sometimes I've had some of the file structures go out and come back too, and once in a while they strip some of the data out of there that they think is irrelevant to whatever's going on, and it was actually some of your customized properties and stuff. So I've seen that. I try, when I do it for my customers, I try really hard to make sure that I stick with as much of their own data as possible. And I want to make sure that I'm upgrading their database and not copying file folders in and overwriting things to make the problem go away. Because that doesn't do you guys any good if you have to go back and do work. And obviously, if you're missing some stuff out of there, you may not realize it for a long time. And then it'll be really hard to figure out why it's not there, or whatever. You open up an old drawing and now you're missing bill of materials information and things like that. So.
This is pretty obvious.
Yeah, I bet. But no, that's good. Thanks for the point on that one. Yes.
Yeah, one point on where we're going from 11 to 13 and doing the conversion, and we customize our master configuration file name. So when I do that conversion, will it keep the file name we specified, or is it going to switch it back to house, the standard toolbox?
No, it should keep the file name that you've given it to it. Does it still have the toolbox marker on it or not? There's another tool that you can use for stripping out the toolbox property from the let's see here, not that one, program files. Yeah, the flag. The flag's still on? For?
Toolbox. To completely strip out the flag.
So you're saying not using the tool, it doesn't take it out for you?
No.
Which one's it missing?
You gotta change the configuration also. Otherwise, it still recognizes it as a toolbox part.
Are you guys using a PDM?
Yes, market.
Okay. Inside the data utilities folder, there's also this command called set doc prop. And you can use this to strip off the toolbox flag. You can see property state yes or no.
Yep.
You can use the add to directories. So you're saying that does not work on the configurations?
No.
Okay.
We use that when we use this somewhere else again, we recognize it as a toolbox part.
So, but if you go into the part, change the configuration, and then strip the flag again, it'll take, oh, okay.
First configuration needs to be
Yeah, okay. No, I mean, I guess that kind of makes, I would think the tool would have gone deeper in that, but I guess I haven't seen that part of it yet. Do you know if that's something that's just happening to the stuff that Smart Team has touched, or is it happening to default files too?
No, I don't know, but usually when we have vendors that use their own toolbox, but we send them our passwords, sometimes he switches them, comes back to us, and sends his toolbox password.
Right. Well, that's probably that make default location thing, and also for you guys, I don't. Does Smart Team give you the window too that says your toolbox is being controlled by Smart Team? And there is one for Enterprise, and it says you have Enterprise loaded. Do you want to make that your toolbox vault or anything like that? You don't have a link for that in Smart Team.
We usually ask to check in the master configuration file and then
Yeah, and I don't know if that secondary flag is being added from Smart Team, or if that's being added at the toolbox component level. Is it? Okay. I'll have to look into that. I haven't. I know we did have some people that were they were customizing their own parts, saving it as a new name, stripping the flag off, and then they would bring it back in somewhere else. PDM would replace it with the one out of the vault because it still saw it as a toolbox file, even though they had taken the flag off of it. Yeah. So that's a configuration problem. Okay. I've seen the result of it. I wasn't necessarily sure why. I'm not on the PDM data side of things, so I personally don't run into that too much. But a lot of times for people, even though you've taken the flag off, there may still be stuff in the file header, especially now that they moved a lot of that data in there. That SolidWorks or one of the PDM tools may still find it. And it sounds like it must be configuration tag. Usually I'll say if you're going to customize a toolbox part, just start with a new one and make it. I mean, you're not really making a major part, you know, I mean, it doesn't take too long. And then that way there is no toolbox flags incorporated in the piece to start with. There's other files out there too you may be able to pick up from some outside vendors or part suppliers. They may have parts already generated for you. Those typically shouldn't have any toolbox stuff on them either. They'll be made by whoever at that company. So those are some other options to look into there as well. What about if you strip the flag off of all the configurations, if you generate new configurations, does it generate a new tag?
Well, the way we use the toolbox is we don't use the configurations, it's create a part.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so we'll have a flag.
Oh, you guys are doing individual part. Okay, so you're not doing create configs. You're doing create part.
Yep.
Okay. Does that give you guys problems when you're swapping your assemblies or swapping part files at all? So I typically will recommend to use the configuration option because in case of fastener size changes or whatever, you don't have to swap the part out. You can just toggle the config.
Yeah, but we can't do that with smart.
Okay. Well, that's good. I used Smart Team way back in like 2000, 2001. And if you guys got some complaints about it now, you should go back in time and check that one out. But it's come a long way, but I'm not familiar with that at all, unfortunately, for you guys. Any other questions I can try to manage that aren't Smart Team related? Yeah.
So one of the problems we're having with 11 and previous years is we change fastener length or time or whatever. We have to re-enter all the custom properties. You know, for example, if we use a master part number, master cage code, or whatever it is. And there's no simple way to simply drop down and find out that fastener already exists in the database.
Right.
So with this new toolbox, is there any new ways to be able to do that easier?
To see if you're.
Instead of recreating and getting duplicates in the database.
Okay.
You know, one person will call it socket and cap screw, the other person will call it, you know, SHCS. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, they're all the same master part.
Yeah. So if you guys can't hear him, the question's been, if I create some sort of configured part or whatever, and I give it a name or tag, is there anything in the database that will allow me to find it again without making a duplicate with a slightly different variation in file name? No, unfortunately not. That even goes back to systems like I've used AS400 in the past, and the same kind of things come up in there. You know, well, this guy entered it 1/4 for a 1/4 inch. One guy typed in .250. The other guy typed in .25, and then now you've got 3 different parts out there, and that's all just in the information database. And you haven't even gotten to what kind of file, what kind of thread it has, or what length of screw it is, or what. I mean, you could end up with a few hundred variations right there. It kind of comes down to setting up some kind of, I guess, user agreement on how you're going to name your files, and that should help you at least narrow that down a little bit.
Right, but even if you enter the exact same metadata, and it's tacking it on to file name, right? It saves you any difference as to the configuration.
Right.
It could be the identical information, and
But
you
you're
didn't even have to do that, right?
right.
Because it actually does exist. So the only way we found to do it is to just select the right size fastener, drop it in with no metadata, right-click on custom properties,
Right.
or component properties, and look at your configurations and see if you've got one with the part number you want. If you do, you can click it, you're good. If you don't, you have to go back and edit the toolbox definitions, fill in your metadata, and it's just a total pain. And so I put an SPR in like 2 years ago to, or SRO,
I don't think there's anything like that in here at all right now. We just throw up a new.
Don't you want to just add your custom configuration specific information in the interface for Toolbox? Because if you add it in there and you have a shared database, a shared Toolbox, anytime anybody goes to look for that, they'll come up with all that information in there.
How do they look for it?
You're using it through a Toolbox. You configure your fastener that way, and once you pull it in assembly, you have your property.
Every time you drop a fastener into assembly, we get one hit.
Right here.
Because you haven't populated your custom properties. You gotta go and change it in that Toolbox.
Yeah, if you do it through configure, you should see a list of all the stuff that's already in the database. But he's saying that they're editing it right here off the flyout.
Right.
Is you? Yeah, you are. Yeah.
You know, the one that shows you where all the fasteners exist?
This one.
Right, so you're saying if I'm going to go drop quarter 21 on that, I've got to go in here to find out if it's in the source?
No, you put your properties that you need in there.
Yes,
save
we
it.
do.
Then once you pull in a fastener, it should come up with the information you put in there. And you turn off what fasteners you have or not have. You don't have to have everything turned on.
No, you can strip it down by
Yeah.
size here or length, and then through your general properties, adding your custom properties, whatever else. It'll shorten this list up a lot by taking some of the stuff out of there. And if it's exactly the same naming configuration, it can't make two configs with the same name.
Right. So you're saying actually enter in the McMaster part number?
Right here, yeah. Just hit part number. You give it a part number.
And then when you go to drop that fastener in, you can search by that.
Yes.
Yes.
Is that new?
No.
Okay, so that's manually going to apply part numbers to all of these.
We did 6,000, right?
You want to do a few more?
Would you say yes and bring that screw in?
Sure. As long as I remember which one it is here. All right, countersunk, elevator, bolt, 1024. Okay. Let's go ahead and save that guy.
See, one thing that we do is we give our master description for the ASTM call out. And we don't care where you go by as long as it meets its specification, because if you start putting a specific vendor down, then you will end up with tons of duplication. When vendors supply us SolidWorks models, we end up with that. And so what we created was a master Excel spreadsheet with all our hardware. So they pull up the Excel spreadsheet for nuts, and we have to have metric, different grades and all that. They just go, here's our description, here's the information, put this in with the custom properties, and everything is same. Because even if you put an extra space or something, it's not going to come up to your little search. Something's slightly off. You put an extra comma or an extra space or no space,
Yeah.
you won't get the same thing. It will create enough.
Yeah, it'll make a new configuration if there's any difference in the characters at all.
So you may want to look at creating like a master Excel spreadsheet to give your team. That's what we do. We have it up on our SharePoint site. So all the designers and engineers pull off this is our per carpenter list. Here's the description.
Yeah.
And they search by that. Oh, that's already made. They can look down. If it doesn't exist, then they know how they paste that exact description on there. So we don't get any hoops.
Yeah.
So there's a way to actually copy and paste this part number description or whatever and have it query. And that's what you just did here.
But like they said, like I've seen it already where the description is exactly the same and they'll have two different fasteners. I'm like, why can't I add this thing, or why am I keep getting this other one? And you go in the end of the actual end of the description and there's a space there, but they look identical. what the empty character said at the end counts as a configuration name change. That's horrible, but that's the way it works.
Yeah, and we can look at, it's two of the exact same passwords, but different methods that show twice in the
Yep, you bet.
I did with all of that because our vault is just like, we have one where it was like over 100 and something of the same password, but named 100 and something different times. Right.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was describing before with the description properties. And I've seen that. It's not just a toolbox problem. That's everybody's global, some sort of naming description problem for every file type out there, Word documents or anything else. Customization and getting your guys to agree on some kind of format and making a standard for everything is absolute must. And a lot of places get started by, all right, this guy knows a little bit to start drawing something. Now you go off and start drawing something. Now this guy's going to learn it. Now we got 3 new employees. They all went to class last week. Now they're drawing some stuff, and everybody gets into the building, this whole big, huge project. And then you guys get to the end and they're like, hey, let's make some drawings and build materials. And holy crap, what is this? What is that? What is this? Now this guy's got this part. I got one over here in this folder. And that's just the general flow of things. You guys got deadlines. You got to meet them. You start building stuff. But making an internalized user group of, like a standards committee or something to get everybody together, agree on things, include your manufacturing engineers in there as well, so that you don't make things that make them unhappy, which happens on occasion. And hopefully, yeah. Well, see, the problem for where I used to work, the problem was we could build, no matter what we had, we could build whatever we wanted. We could make every bill of materials we needed. But the guy that created the shop packs would come back and yell at us if our bill of materials didn't work with his program. Well, then you got to figure out the solution. Is it on their end or is it on my end? My idea was always, well, there's much more you guys than there are of me, and if you could take some time and recorrect that, that'd be great. But it didn't always work that way. And then they're like, no, we got X million of the shop packs already out there. We're not doing that. Well, all right, fine. I guess I'll change mine then. Okay, guys? All right, so we're down to 5 minutes right now. If there's anything else I can answer for you, or try to anyways, hopefully I can. Again, we have the blog available. These files will be out there. If you guys have some really sticky problems, talk to me. You can email me. If it ends up being something that I need to talk with your VAR about, because you're out of a different area or a different VAR or whatever, I'll do that. I'm real good with the guys up at SolidWorks too, and we can go ahead and we'll work on a solution, okay? There's one out there, we'll find it. All right, guys? All right, thank you.